Smart Analyzer or Eventia Analyzer or Smart Event. Now, you'll basically hear all three of those terms throughout this particular Nugget series. I kind of struggle with some of the changing names that Checkpoint has given us inside of R70 for this wonderful product known as Eventia Analyzer or Smart Event, as it will commonly be known. And that's why I kind of put the names together to demonstrate the product name. But anyway, let's get into exactly what we are going to cover in this particular nugget with the Eventia Analyzer or Smart Event software. We're going to walk through our actual software installation. We're going to see exactly what we need to do to build a combination install box of the Eventia Reporter and the Eventia Analyzer box on the same machine. After we get through with the actual software installation, we're going to walk through our actual dashboard object config, and we're going to see exactly what we need to do inside the Checkpoint management server to get that dashboard object in place and to get our actual software functioning like we would like it to. And we're also going to review the server components and the configuration that we must do inside of the Eventia Analyzer GUI window just to get everything up and running, get all of our information correctly configured, and giving us the actual ability to act on some of this data that's being delivered to our analyzer box from our Checkpoint log servers. And those are the things that we are going to cover in this Smart Analyzer nugget. So like I said, take some wonderful notes. Let's continue on from here and learn about this wonderful product. Hello everyone and welcome. In this nugget we are going to discuss a new product name from Checkpoint, and that is known as Smart Event. Smart Event has been around for a while, and it was known as Eventia Analyzer in the past, and some updates have been made to the R70 train of code, and we're going to go through those updates, show you how to configure Smart Event, and get everything set up from the ground up. So one thing that I've already done for us is install the actual secure platform software. Now we just need to dive in and take a look at the overall configuration. So I gave it 10.20.1.30 for its IP address, and let's give it a second here, and I think we can just log into it and we can start configuring this box. So we'll do admin. Alright, now we give it a new default password. Okay, username, I'll stick with admin. Alright, so we're good here, so we can go ahead and issue a sysconfig. Alright, we'll choose next. Hostname, this is going to be our Smart Event box, so we'll call it our Nugget dash Smart. Because this is actually going to obtain our actual Smart Event as well as our Smart Reporter, which is basically a rewrite of Eventia Reporter. We're going to put them on the same box in this particular scenario, but we'll call it Nugget-Smart for now. And we'll hit enter and enter again, E to exit, and let's specify our domain name. And in our case, we are on the nuggetlab.com. Alright, looks good. Do E to exit, domain name servers. Let's go ahead and specify that Google one I've talked about, which is the 8.8.8.8. Looks good. E to exit, network connections. We're on the 1021.30 IP, so the default gateway is our Nugget R70 cluster, which is 1021.1 for the inside virtual IP. So we can select next at this point. We can go ahead and set our time zone, and it's 2 for Americas for me, 47 I believe, or 45 for the United States on this particular install version. Option number 9 for Central Time. Go and hit 1 to approve it, and that's just about done. Okay, let's do option number 4. Look at our date and time settings, and we need to go ahead and adjust this here. Let me go ahead and set the time up. So we're going to set our local time. So we'll do option number 3, and we're going to set our local time to be what it currently is. And in this case, it is currently 20:05, I believe. But let me go ahead and check that and make sure, guys, just to make sure we're all on the same page here. Alright guys, our current time is 22:06, so that's what we are going to set at this point. So that's going to be 22:06. Hit enter. Alright, so that looks good. Our date and time settings are accurate now. And we need that for any certificate-based operations. So we're going to go ahead and hit our option next for now. And we'll hit next again. Next one more time. Go ahead and hit yes to accept the actual agreement. This is going to be a new installation, so we'll continue on from here. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue on. We're going to option for next. And in this case, this is actually going to be a Aventia Suite is what it's still called, but the R70 new names for everything are Smart Event and Smart Reporter. So we'll hit option number 4. And as we can see, by default it turns on security management because this can also be turned into a syslog location, which is part of the installation options for setting up the Smart Event or Aventia products. So we'll select next at this point. We can tell it that it is basically just a log server, so we hit option number 3. We'll select next, and then we're going to turn on all 3 of these options. And it still has the old standards here where it's the Aventia Reporter, Analyzer Server, and the Correlation Unit. So we'll go ahead and select next at this point. Next again. And this is going to run through the install here and set up all these products in this combination install on top of 10.20.1.30. So what it's saying here is says please wait while the required installation files are extracted. It'll take a couple minutes for it to run through and install all 3 of these options. As we can see now, it's installing the log server first. Once this gets done, it'll go ahead and install the other options for the Smart Event or Smart Reporter or Aventia products. Call it whatever you want at this point, but that's basically where we are at on this particular option with this version of software and the code on R70. One day we're going to see, once we dive into the dashboard, we're going to see a brand new GUI that looks really cool, and I'm just excited for you guys to see how much they have improved this product and how useful it's going to be for you as you're in your daily work as a security engineer. And it just gives you a lot of flexibility, a lot of options, and it's going to look really good. So I'm going to pause for a second while it finishes the overall install of the smart products, and then we'll come back, get everything configured, and talk more about Smart Event. Okay, so we can just go ahead and click no here for this license information. We'll add this at a later date, and we'll go ahead and add a checkpoint administrator at this point. And we're going to keep the same naming convention we used on the install and the same password information. Okay. Alright. And what it's saying here, administrator was added successfully with read and write permissions for all products, and it also has permission to manage other administrators. So we'll say no, that we don't want to add another at this point. GUI clients, we'll say yes to that. And again, like we talked about, I'm setting mine to any for this particular lab and then hitting Control D. But again, in a production environment, lock that down to a specific network or a specific VLAN or management network that you use for your network security or your network operations group. So let's go ahead and enter a SIT key just like we would on a firewall, because this must be in place as well. And now we'll go ahead and start up the actual products. So we can see as it comes up here, we'll see it starting the actual checkpoint Aventia or Smart Event products. As we can see, it's running through the Aventia suite, and it'll say that it's starting these products here and starting up the database and all that great information. So at this point, we should be able just to hit enter. Go ahead and jump into expert mode and let's set this up. Okay, one more time. Alright, so let's go ahead and change shell on this. And we're going to set this up to bring us directly into the bash shell whenever we log in. It makes it just that much more convenient for us. Alright, looks good. Let's go ahead and clear this. And I'd like to go ahead and run a reboot on the box, just in case. And let's go ahead and run a reboot. Alright, so while this is rebooting, what we need to do is go ahead and go into our management server. I have a pretty blank policy up right here for this particular management server for our Nugget management. And this one's just a pretty bare policy at this point. So what I'm going to do is just look at just a fresh install, what that would look like, just so everybody's on the same page here. So what we're going to do is, let's say for example this is a new install in an environment. You have your management server in place, and even before you set up your firewalls and different things, you want to set up your management server in order to be able to collect those logs and report on different events that hit your firewalls. And that's what the Smart Event or the Eventia Analyzer option is for. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to go ahead, and I have another option that I'd like to show you guys. This is a very standard built Nugget management server. Before I actually upgraded any of the policies or set up the clusters or anything like that, and I snapshotted that image on our VMware session in order just to have a base image, and that's what I have right now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and pause for a second here, and what I'm going to do is actually restore my snapshot to the latest snapshot. That way we have all of our objects and all of our policies and all those things in place. That way we can all be on the kind of same playing field, I should say, whenever it comes to our management server and the way it's going to sync those objects over toward the Smart Event or the Eventia Analyzer. So let's go ahead and pause for a moment, then we'll come back once I restore that snapshot and get everything configured for this product. Alright everyone, now that our Smart Event box has rebooted, we need to come into our dashboard here, and I've restored our snapshot to get us back to our Nugget management server that actually has some data in it. And we need to create our object. So we're going to do new. On the checkpoint, we're going to right click, and we're going to tell this that this is going to be an actual checkpoint host. So we'll select that, and then once we select this, we can give it a name. In this case, we called it the Nugget-Smart for our Smart Events. So let's go ahead and put that in place. Okay, looks good, and our IP is going to be the 10.20.1.30, and of course we're going to go ahead and just stick a green color here, and we can tell that this is our Smart Event Reporter box. Okay, looks fine. And now at this point, let's go ahead and go to communication, put it in our SIT key that we set up, and go ahead and send that option over, and this should go to a trust established just like any firewall would, and it's communicating. And now we need to set our products here under management. This is basically going to be overall reporting. So we're going to select reporting, we're going to select Eventia Analyzer, and it's just telling you here that you need to install the event policy. They put that warning in here on the R70. To complete the server's configuration, we need to define our correlation units in the policy tab of the Analyzer client and install the event policy, which we'll do. And we'll tell it that this is also going to be our correlation unit. And the reporting here is turned on for our Smart Reporter option. And this is basically everything that you have now. Now, one thing you'll see here is the IPS event analysis. Now, the IPS event analysis and the Eventia Analyzer are very close in their overall look and feel and everything, and it's pretty much looks almost exactly the same, but they kind of key in on different areas. But we'll go ahead and take a look at the Analyzer, and you'll have all the information that you need to know about IPS event analysis as well. So let's go ahead and hit OK at this point. And then we'll jump over and check things out on the GUI side. So we're going to select Window, and we're going to select Eventia Analyzer at this point. But before we do this, we need to go ahead and install our event policy. Almost forgot about that. And that's actually installing our database onto our boxes here. So let's do a policy, install database. And at this point, we need to quit on this. And what we're going to see here is behind the scenes, we see Nugget Management. So let me go ahead and save this at this point. And let's go in and select a few products here and make sure everything is set up the way that we want it. So under this looks fine. It's open server. It's running R70. Management Blade. That looks good. That looks good. Reporting looks good. We can select OK here. Let's save this policy. and do a policy, and let's go ahead and do install database. And we're just seeing Nugget Management for now. Let's go ahead and hit OK here. And this will take care of the actual just installing the database option to our management server. Now we're going to install that, and once it gets installed, we'll go ahead and jump over to the actual configuration of this particular box. Now one thing you're going to see is that you basically had to push a lot of this stuff down in the older versions of Eventia Analyzer to get all the objects and different things synced between your management server and the reporting server or your Eventia Analyzer box, but a lot of that stuff is being pulled over in R70. So we'll go ahead and select close on this for now. We're going to select window, and we'll select Eventia Analyzer. Now this is going to give us an option here where it automatically recognized it here based on what it saw inside the database, and it's going to try to log in for us. So we see server, and then it wants our actual password information. Let's go ahead and give it that, and we'll accept our actual fingerprint and approve that, and this should log us into the GUI where we can dive in and just get everything configured the correct way. And we'll approve all the GUI information, and we'll just give it a second here, and this should pop up for us. So what we see, and alright, it says events are okay, all this looks fine. Now one thing you're going to see at this point, this looks exactly like what you would see inside of R65. Now I'm going to install an update here that's basically going to switch the overall GUI look of this product up, and it's going to look exactly like what I was talking about with the IPS event analysis. Now as of R70.20, a patch came out that kind of changed things up and started integrating some of the Eventia Analyzer products into the IPS event analysis option as well. So what we're going to do at this point is go ahead and just check out a couple things. We can configure the things that we need, but we're going to perform an actual upgrade on this box just to make sure I can show you all the brand new options for the latest and greatest code that R70 has out there. But we'll go ahead and take care of that. So the first thing we need to do is go ahead and define our internal network. Now our internal network in this case is actually coming from the Nugget cluster side of things, is 1021. So we'll add that to our internal network group. That's perfectly fine. And then we're going to select our correlation units. We'll select add. We'll select this button here. We'll select our correlation unit. We'll see Nugget Smart. We click OK here. And we'll go ahead and save this for now. And it's looking for an actual log server. So we'll click add. We'll tell it our Nugget management server actually collects our logs from our firewalls. So that's where we're going to get all of our actual log information from, and we'll click save at that point. So that is set up at this point. So the next thing that we want to look at here is just making sure that we have everything set up, and then we can look at our actually HFA install that's going to upgrade everything. So that looks good. We have our correlation units, we have our internal network defined. Now I just want to review a couple things here and just to make sure it's set up the way we want it. So under scans, we have some options where we can turn on some automatic reactions and different things like that. Let's go ahead and configure that because that's a pretty cool aspect of being able to inject some SAM rules. So what we're going to do, we have some automatic reactions here. So let's do automatic reaction. We're going to say that we want to go ahead and issue a mail alert, and we're going to say from security at nuggetlab.com, and we're going to basically send any alerts from and to this email address. And our outgoing mail or SMTP server, we don't really have anything defined here for now, but we'll put something in. Let's say, for example, we had a mail server of 10.20.1.50. So all of our internal users would use this. Subject's fine, CC, you could add additional people, but we're going to save this for now. And we can see that it creates an automatic reaction here. Now we can do another automatic reaction of block source. and we can block source for a certain threshold. One thing I like to do is kind of be restrictive on this. If they're port scanning you, or ping sweep, or send flood, or anything that looks really malicious to you from the outside world, I kind of like to be restrictive and strict on them and block them for the next week. You can always come in and whitelist or remove somebody from this list through your Event Analyzer or your Smart Event setup, but this gives you the option to make sure that if someone is doing those kind of things to your network, you're given the best security protection available, and go ahead and block them for the maximum amount by default, which is for the next week. So let's go ahead and save that for now. Now, one thing we see, we have these two automatic reactions here. We can use those. So let's say if we have a port scan from an external network, what we can do here, we can basically change our severity up. We're going to say when we detect at least 20 connections that were detected over a 60 second period or interval, we can actually modify this information. If you want to say that if you're getting at least, I'll say 100, when we see at least 100 of these vents sent over, let's say a 2-minute option. So that way, just the drive-by scans, we're not going to send as many alerts on those, but we're going to say roughly every 2 minutes, if we see these types of scans, we're going to go ahead and mark the severity. We're going to say it's critical. We're going to set our automatic reactions to go ahead and email us and to go ahead and block the source. We're going to do both of those for this particular option. And that's pretty much what we want for this particular scan at this point. So at this point, we should be able to go to Actions, and we should be able to go ahead and install our event policy. And we're going to go ahead and select that we want to install our standard policy. And what this is going to do, it's going to go ahead and set up our Eventia Analyzer options. And what we can see is that our Eventia Analyzer policy was successfully installed on the Nugget Smart. And it says installation complete, policy installation succeeded for Nugget Smart. So we'll click close at that point, and that'll basically get our overall policy set up. Now under events, anything that matches our options are going to pop up here just like they did in R65. We have some options here for setting up different types of reports. And we have an overview screen that tells us everything we want to know about our events received, the last process by the last minutes, our database space, and all that information is here as well. And at the top, we have our typical window, we have our query, our actions to configure custom commands. If we want to set up different things for Telnet or Whois or whatever, we have all those options right here for custom commands. So let's go ahead and cancel off of that for now. And under View, pretty standard information for toolbar and status. And under File, that's pretty much what we want. We're going to go ahead and exit out of the dashboard for now. And I want to check one additional thing and see if anything looks different for me at this point. So let me do a policy install database and see if this still shows me Nugget Management, which it does, which is new for R70. In the past, whenever you identified another box as an Eventia Analyzer or Eventia Reporter box, you had to actually install the database directly from your management server to that particular box. Now, one thing we noticed in this GUI is it synced all that information. The CP sync process took care of syncing all of our network objects and all these things here into the Nugget Smart Event server. So what we're going to do at this point is go ahead and perform an upgrade to that particular box. So let's go ahead and jump on PuTTY here, and we're going to go ahead and connect over 1021.30. That's going to be the box. Let's go ahead and open this up and log in. Alright, and now what we want to do is go ahead and change the directory over to the var directory. We're going to make a folder, and we're going to call this particular folder HFA for Hotfix Accumulator. Let's go ahead and clear off this particular screen to give us a little bit more options, and CD over to the HFA directory. And now we're going to FTP over to our Nugget PC, which has an FTP server on it, which is 10.20.1.25. And let's go ahead and select that option, and we'll go ahead and log into this guy. Okay, let's try that again and put our correct password in. Alright. Alright, we're in. So let's go ahead and issue our bin, put our hash in, and tell us to do a list for us, and we see all of our information here. And what we're going to look for is this actual option right here, which is the Checkpoint R70.40 actual package. Is the latest hotfix accumulator that I want to pull down to apply to this box. So what we're going to do is go ahead and install that at this point, or at least download it. So we'll do a mget. We're going to do ch star. We can hit enter, tell it we don't want the 30. We want to go for the 40. So we'll say yes to that and let it go ahead and download that particular hotfix accumulator. Now, as we can see, I like to use these options and use the FTP and different things to transfer the packages because it works really well and it's pretty fast and it's efficient way of getting the actual hotfix onto a box like this Nugget Smart box that we are building. So let's give it a second here, let it pull the overall package over, and once it gets pulled over, we'll go through and actually set up our actual hotfix update. So let's give it a moment, and it should be done here, as we can see. Let's go ahead and do a buy, issue a clear, do a list, and we see it here. Now we need to unpack it. So we'll issue a tar-xzvf of the actual file, and that'll basically unpack the package for us. And as you can see, it's downloading all the additional packages and different things that are part of this R70.40 update. And what we're going to do at this point, once this gets done, just like any of the Checkpoint hotfix accumulators in the last 3 to 4 years, there's always going to be a Unix install script built into the hotfix that makes it really easy to install that particular hotfix. And that's basically a /Unix install script. You hit enter on that, and it pops up, welcome to the Checkpoint R70.40 installation, and it tells you that the following components will be installed. We have a R70.40, we have our IPS event analysis blade, we have our workflow blade, we have our CPSG 80 series appliance from Checkpoint, smart provisioning, which we've already talked about. And it says the current installation contains a major upgrade of Eventia Analyzer. Please back up your machine before you continue, since there is no rollback following the upgrade. And it asks us, do we wish to continue? Seeing as if this is in a lab environment, I'm going to say yes to this. In a production environment, before you actually try to do an upgrade, maybe from an R65 version, go ahead and issue an actual backup by running the backup command, and also go ahead and create an upgrade export and transfer both of those backup packages off of the box. That way, if things go bad, you could build out the same box with the same software version, same host name and IP, restore your backups, and you're back where you need to be. But I haven't had any failures at all doing this, so I'm pretty confident that this is going to be fine for us. So I'm going to go ahead and select enter here, and it tells us that it's going to stop all the Checkpoint services, and that's perfectly fine. And we're going to let it run through the actual installation process of installing R70.40 with that advanced upgrade to Eventia Analyzer, where we start talking about actually calling the product code Smart Event for R70. So let's go ahead and let it run through. It's going to install all these additional update information. It's going to basically repackage this, and this takes about 5 to 10 minutes for most installations to get this package upgraded to the R70.40. So let's go ahead and pause for a second. We'll let it finish up the install. We'll come back, dive into the GUI again, investigate all the new updates and all the information that is part of the update for R70.40, just to get you up to the latest speed on everything for Eventia Analyzer, also known as Smart Event, which is part of what we're talking about in this particular nugget. Alright guys, now that we've installed our R70.40 patch, let's go ahead and dive into the dashboard and go to Window, and we'll choose our Eventia Analyzer at this point. And this will give us a second. It'll launch toward this IP, looking it up from the objects files, And what we're going to see here is that it'll take some mutual authentication here, and it's going to load the libraries and go through all the different options here, but we're really going to see a big difference in the way that the dashboard looks here. And this will just take a moment for it to load for us. It's updating the files from the security and management server, getting a list of active products, and it's basically going to sync everything at this point. It's performing a sync behind the scenes between your Nugget management server and the Eventia Analyzer dashboard. And there we go, guys. This is basically a brand new setup. And what it's saying here, it says what's new in the event correlation software blade. It's telling us we have timelines. We can see real-time information, trends, and anomalies at a glance with security events. We can look at charts, maps. We can do forensics. We can drill down event information by double-clicking on timelines, charts, and maps. We can group by certain events. We can set up ticketing information. We can client info. Application is actually here as well. And we see a picture of processes, hotfixes, and vulnerability indications to that machine. And we can actually look at identity logging. If we had an Active Directory environment set up, we could log exactly which employee was doing what at what time. And it's pretty cool information. And this is just a lot of the new stuff that's included in the R70.40. So let's go ahead and click OK here. Now, right here, just like the IPS dashboard you may have seen in the R70 CCSA series, this is Security Center. We can click on Connect to the Internet, tell it to click OK here, and what we're going to see is it's going to jump out to the Internet, and we see all the latest protection information from Checkpoint, all the latest exploits and different things, and all that information is printed in the Security Center. We also see our top sources, our top destinations, and our top events for any types of attacks. And under status here, we can see the actual status of the actual processes that are running on the box. We can look at the object sync process, and all this should always be in an OK status. And then here on the side, we have a timeline view. And we also see our most important security event information, and all that is listed on the box at this point. And then here at the top, looks similar to what you had before, but much different. We have events, and under the events area, we can key in on by tab, state, information, and all that stuff for like IPS or by direction, by IP, endpoint events. And we have all events, and all that type of information is all kept under the actual event section now. Under timelines, we can actually key in on specific timelines. Under manage right here, we can add a line if we want to lock in on a specific timeline to see some things. We can see charts. If we want to dive in and see actual information, we can do it via pie chart or a bar chart or any of the different informations that you want to see. You can look at your map information if you want to look at a network map or your actual events that are generated by the source country. And this is pretty cool information. It'll actually show you which country is doing what on your network, just like it would in the geo protection for IPS. So we have our reports area, just like we did on the previous version. And under the policy section, this looks much like the same of what we had in the R70, R65 build, where we had our correlation units, and we had our internal network. We had our automatic reactions, which are still here. We have our network objects. We have our database maintenance, and all this information is set up as well. And that's pretty much everything that you want to see in the overall structure with the new dashboard, the way it looks. Granted, before you get information here, you're going to need to let this run for a while. But what you want to do is go ahead and let it run on a production environment, and you'll start to see things pop into these particular event windows. But this needs to run for about an hour is usually what I give it to allow it to collect in the sync information between the SmartView tracker or your log server and your IPS protections, and all that different information will be synced over via the policy option here looking at your actual correlation unit, which is your nugget management server. And that's going to basically correlate, analyze logs, and detect events and different things by basically looking at the log file that lives on Nugget Management, and it's going to continuously look at that log file, looking for any type of information that's an anomaly or looks like a trend of a potential attack. And that's basically the way that things are going to work here using this version of the software. And of course we have information on scans, which is still the same. And we can key in on web information and virus alert and IPS, and all that great things are all searchable right here under this particular policy section. Now, so if we jump back over to our overview section at this point, we really don't have much on here for now. But like I said, we need to let this run for about an hour, let it grab all the information, and when it's done, we'll be able to install the event policy, which we should be able to do. And let's go ahead and install the policy report. This will run through and kind of do the same thing that we were doing before, but on the new version of the software. So let's go ahead and see if this will install successfully for us. And it said that it was able to install it. So everything looks good at this point. So that's pretty much everything you need to know about this smart event application for R70. Now, one thing, or the biggest thing you need to know, is that it was basically a complete rewrite of the overall dashboard. It looks much like IPS. We can see that based on the information that you're going to look at, you can manage. You can look at a particular line, you can configure different things, you have a little legend that says this is categorized as a critical event, high event, medium event, low event, or an informational event. All that information is completely there. And under options, we have a match case information. We have all these different things available. And we can click on configure if we want to look at some additional timelines and query information. But like I said, that's pretty much everything you need to know about this particular option. And the best thing to do is to get it set up, get it synced, get the SIC information, all that taken care of, and get some logs actually correlating into this particular software. That way you get the biggest bang for your buck, and you see all the different options and how you can drill into the actual events and actual, I guess I should say, attacks. And that's one thing that we can do here. Let me see if I can actually give us a little bit better picture here. And let's try to do this a little bit differently at this point. I just want you to see some additional information here. Now under programs, we can go ahead and go to R70.40. We should see it here. And what we're going to see is this IP or Vinci Analyzer. Let's go ahead and open this up, and we're going to tell it that we want to use demo mode. And I want to show you guys some additional options here that you're going to see once it has fully synced and populated everything from your log files. I'll give you a quick idea of what things will look like. And that's a great option. Anytime you want to give an example or anything on Checkpoint products, demo versions or the demo mode is built into all the dashboards, and it's just a really cool effect. And basically, if you need to show someone how to configure something, or if you need an example of how things are configured, using the demo mode is always possible. Now it says this is select our actual demo mode. We're using a security management server, so we can select OK. We're not using provider 1, so let's go ahead and hit OK here and let it run through the loading process of building up this demo edition of the Vinci Analyzer. And it's telling us that it's preparing the overview page, and it's doing all the typical information that we would do whenever we logged in with a truly configured Vinci Analyzer box. But I want you guys to see all this information as well. So as this finishes uploading, it gives us this option about all the new information. That's perfectly fine. We click OK. But this is what I wanted you to see. This is some cool information. So what we see here is like our most important events. It breaks it down by the actual timelines. But here at the bottom, what we see is we see the actual attacks. We see the country that it's coming from. We see the actual IPS information here, if it was blocked or not. And we have all these information that's basically on our overview page. We can see our top sources, our top destinations, our top events, and all this information that's built into the overall dashboard. And that's the kind of things that you can see at this point, and it's pretty cool information. So if you want to key in on a particular host, you can right click on this and you see all the wealth of options that we have here. We can do a ping, we can do a who is, an NS lookup, we can look at client info, we can add an exception to the event definition, we can exclude it from event definition, we can go to the event definition, add an exception to an IPS protection, go to IPS, view a raw event log, send an event by email. You have just a bunch of options that you can do here. Let's see if whois works at this point. Being in a demo mode, that doesn't work for you. I just wanted to see if that would work. So I can go ahead and abort that. Close that for now. But you get the overall idea of the way that the dashboard will look after it actually syncs everything from your management server and it's up to speed. So that's pretty much everything I want to show you guys. And just make sure you see everything. And like I said, install the product, set it up on your network, get it syncing your logs, and you're really going to love the information that the Smart Event for R70 gives you. Everyone, are we ready to inspect our checkpoint log files with a great amount of forensic detail like a CSI agent? And that is one of the greatest things about the Smart Event or the Event Analyzer software. In this particular nugget, we learned the actual software installation steps that we needed to perform in order to get the software installed and deployed properly. Then we ran through the actual dashboard object config where we saw exactly what we needed to do inside the checkpoint dashboard to get the object configured properly, get our software set up correctly, and get everything flowing the way we would like it to. We also reviewed all the Event Analyzer or the Smart Event GUI options inside of that particular dashboard, where we saw exactly what we needed to set up in order to get this product deployed and working the way that we would like it to. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.